Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Mia Hall TV. You are tuned into Brown Girls Glow Live, a show where we highlight people that are successful in their careers, women of color that are going after their dreams because we want to empower teenage girls to grow, lead, overcome, and win. Today, I'm going to be continuing my series where I go through the book Glow Girl and I talk about each chapter. So today I'm actually up to chapter 9. Chapter 9 is called Fuel the Flame, Living by Purpose. Now, I do want to give a shout out to all of those who are making history now and all who are responsible for us being here today. Happy Black History Month. So, I believe that I was inspired by so many people to live by my purpose. And that's why I wanted to include a chapter on fueling the flame and living by purpose. Purpose is something that I believe is not just given to you at one time. Oh, my purpose is to be a singer. Like, that might be your gift, but today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the difference between that. So the difference between the gift and your purpose is revealed to you over time. So it's not like we just have one purpose, right? For being on this earth. Yes, we do. We all have a purpose, but it's really we have purposes, right? We might have a purpose in different seasons in our lives. In high school, I had a purpose, right? In high school, I was captain of the basketball team. I was president of the student government. We all had a purpose, right? But at this time in my life, I have a different purpose. So today, my purpose is to read you this book. And so I talk about when I was 16. I'm not going to read it, of course, word for word, but I'll just pretty much go through it and let you know what it is about. So I talk about a principle that I learned in CCC, Christian Cultural Center, from Dr. Aaron Bernard. If the purpose of a thing is misunderstood, abuse is inevitable. So if you don't understand your purpose, you can abuse yourself. And so I talk about when I was 16 and in church and just learning more about purpose. I even remember talking about Miss Oma Holloway. And Oma Holloway is the person that introduced me to the program called ACRES, American Civil Rights Education Services. And I talk about that here. Man, that was a good time because we used to basically go in. It was about, I would say, once a week or once every 2 weeks that we would listen to Mr. Sean Devlin, and he had a co-founder, kind of, maybe not founder, a person that worked with him. Like, Sean Devlin was white, and he, of course, teaching civil rights, he like let us know, like, yes, white man, that's why I have a black man here to, help me teach, and, just like to be fully transparent and, support like especially young African-American students, but also white students learning about the civil rights movement. Like, that was his thing. And he called it ACRES because he actually was like a farmer and like really like into the land and things like that. That's unfortunately, he died on his farm. So honestly, a sad story, but he really changed so many lives. Like, I know that everybody in ACRES really learned a lot, and I pray that they're all doing well. But I believe that this gave us all such a strong foundation. So I talk about how I went to a tour of the civil rights movement of like 9 major stops on the civil rights movement. So Little Rock, Arkansas, where the Little Rock 9 went, is one of the stops, and that's what I talk about more in this book. We also went to Mississippi, where we met James Meredith, the first black person to integrate. I believe it's the University of Mississippi. And he still wears his Ole Miss hat, and or at least he was wearing it at the time. And he had an amazing story. Just imagine going to college and them, making you sit outside the classroom, and it was just it was just a lot. But we went to, of course, Martin Luther King's birthplace and Ebenezer Baptist Church, and we went to Selma, Alabama. We went to the Edmund Pettus Bridge, where Bloody Sunday was, and we went to the church where they preached Emmett Till's funeral, I believe, by David Dennis. Woo, that man was fired up. I don't think it was Emmett Till's funeral. I think it was somebody else. It could have been the 4 girls from Birmingham. But we went to Birmingham. We went to the, Baptist church where the 5 girls were bombed. Only 4. I mean, not only. Only 1 survived of the 5 girls that were actually bombed. And of course, 4 unfortunately lost their lives very young age. But yes, we did all of that. And that, so basically I just talk about one of those trips. And in one of those trips, I was able to meet Elizabeth Eckford. And she was like the last student to really, go into the school when everybody else, the other Little Rock 8 had, the other 8 of the Little Rock 9 had already went into the school, and Elizabeth Eckford was the last one to go. And so she had the crowds, just, she didn't really have, I don't think she, had the escorts taking her in on the first day. So she had, just the white students spitting on her and, calling her all types of things but a child of God. And, she talked about how she, not only that day, how it, was crazy, but, going to school and having to bring a change of clothes because you'll read about it in the book, MiaHallTV.com. But yeah, just, I was like, these people that went before us and said, agreed, maybe it was their parents encouraging them, whatever, because that was hard, but they agreed to basically put their life on the line. They could have lost their lives. Who knows if one of those kids would have been so upset, he'd have been like, you know what, let's lynch this, him. He whistled at me. I mean, look at Emmett Till, right? So, who knows what could have happened to those students that fought for our education and that, endured so much, to let us have an equal education. Because they tried to say it was separate but equal, but it was not equal, in the Black schools. So that really helped me to, I'd already been, because of my personality type, which I talk about in the book, I was already very studious and just a studious person based on my personality type. But that just put an extra level of gratitude in me. And so I had to take school more seriously when I saw so many people that went through so much to even let us have an equitable education as our white counterparts. And so, yeah, that's actually a Black History moment. So, happy Black History Month again. So I talk about what purpose is and, something, I say they talked about The Purpose-Driven Life. That was a great book. Highly recommend. And I remember Rick Warren is the author, and he talked about living life with intention, grounded in biblical principles. I said that he talks about setting goals and pursuing them intentionally, and that he didn't go through life letting things happen to them or chasing after something because it was popular or would make them a lot of money. And so that's what living a life by purpose is, right? Not living a life because, it's going to make me a lot of money, or, living a life by whatever is going to please me the most. It is one with intention and one with impact, really. So I always say that we were all put on this earth for a reason. There's a problem or an issue that somebody out there has that only you can solve. So we all have different personalities, different ways of being for a reason, and it's for our purpose. And so, glitter dust, right? Because I have, a little section where I kind of like break it down, right? And that is the glitter dust section. So I say your purpose isn't just one thing, it progresses more as you move along your journey. And so that's what I was just talking about with, it not being, like a talent or a gift. A gift is something that you find out you have, usually when you're born. A talent is something that you, pretty much turn it into. When you cultivate your gift, you become talented in that gift. You hone your gift, it becomes a talent. And so then I go through the Tiger method, right? Tiger is a method that I learned about in college that helps you to define more of your purpose. And so I wrote my capstone project, or my like thesis project for honors college at Hampton University, was to it was called America's Next Top Model Student. And I said, I went through this whole thing about Tiger, going through the Tiger method, just to see, like, to identify if you're like, I don't know what I want to get into, I don't know what I want to do. Look at the Tiger method. Those, I'm going to share with you what Tiger stands for, what the acronym is for, and that can give you a clue as to what you might like, or something that you can try that could be related to your purpose. So Tiger, the T stands for talent, the I stands for insights. What life lessons have you learned that can help others? Talent is what do people often compliment you on. Gifts are what comes naturally to you, even if it seems small. Experiences. How have your challenges shaped your strengths? And the R is for resources. What do you have access to that can help you grow and maybe even give you an edge? And so, you want to look at this in order to just see, like, okay, what are my resources? Hey, my cousin, works at, I don't know, Apple. He's in tech. Maybe, that gives me access to people that know how to code, right? And so, I have an idea for an app. Like, you never know. So I give examples, of course, in here of how you can use these different acronyms, these different things in order to, help you come closer to what you really want to do, help you come closer to picking a college major or, picking a career, what you're going to do for the summer. You never know. All right. So I talk a little bit more about how basketball really led me to my purpose. I played basketball in middle school. I started playing basketball at Russell Sage Middle School. And that really led me to my purpose, well, I say, because I started out as a dancer from like 3 years old to like 12 years old. Then when I went to middle school at 12, they didn't have a dance program at my middle school at Russell Sage. So they did have basketball, so I started playing basketball. And playing basketball in Queens led me to playing in Brooklyn when I moved. And that led me to finding out about Power Play NYC. Power Play NYC is the program that is a program that still exists after 20 years that educates and empowers girls through sports. And there is where I learned about careers in sports in general. Like before that, I'd never really thought about like, oh, a certain amount of people might play for a basketball team, but there's way more, 10 times as many people that work for that same team, right? So that's the first place that I learned about that. So really, playing basketball, being gifted and talented in it, led me to wanting to play in a gym and play, in an organized league. And then that led me to finding out about Power Play, which Power Play led me to, being able to work for them. Then being able to work for them, I was able to work for the WNBA. Being able to work for the WNBA, I was able to work at the High School of Sports Management. I was able to work at Brooklyn Nets and Barclays Center. So it really just trickled from there. So so think about these things, the resources, right? I had access to resources because I was a part of the YMCA, and they provided that resource of Power Play NYC that led me to, a world of opportunity. And so I greatly appreciate, being able to use the Tiger Method, and that's why I wanted to share it with other young girls so that they can see, okay, what is at my access? What are my experiences? What have I gone through in life? Our experience growing up in a household that was full of books, right? So that education, that, love of books, love of knowledge, love of reading helped me to get exposure to, a lot of books and just things outside of the projects, really, when I was a young girl. So helping to know your talents, right? To know your interests, to know your gifts, to know your experiences, to know your resources. That will help you to choose a college major, or even more, potentially a career, or what you want to get into, what you're interested in, right? Where you can make an impact. So figure out your tiger, all right? And that's how you will come to finding out more about your purpose. So thank you so much for tuning in this week. I'm going to wrap it up here. I appreciate everybody who tunes in. Make sure you share this with a friend, subscribe, like, and leave a comment below on some of your gifts, some of your talents, so I can see it. All right? See you next week. Peace.